to the Grey Man Podcast. This retired counter-terrorism agent, lifelong martial artist, and personal defense expert joins his best friend, producer Jim, to talk about personal defense and world events. This is The Grey Man, Mike Sine.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of The Grey Man. I know we took a week off last week.
We did.
Lots been going on, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of life happening.
Life happens, and I actually had somebody, a friend of ours was over for dinner last night, had some flesh knuckles. I can tell you about that. Flesh kikla, that's the thing. No.
Deep fried meats. Deep fried meats.
Oh, it's all meat and dough. That's what it is. But he said he was feeling bad because he was behind a couple of weeks. I've got good news for you. You're only behind a week because we just took a week off. It's what we do sometimes because we can. It's that time of the show, though. Yeah. Well, you have to guess. What number are we on? Where are we at?
I was just doing that. I think we're on 17.
There you go.
Holy shit.
You got it. Yes. We have a winner.
Good, because my notes are labeled Season 2, Episode 17. So that'd be kind of weird if it wasn't.
Yeah, we would have had to either travel back in time or forward in time.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. Time travel. So where would you go? No, I don't even have to ask. You would go back.
Yes, of course I would go back.
What period? You're going back to Revolution?
Yeah. You don't know me, shut up. God damn it. I didn't even get a chance to answer that one.
No, and then here's the twist, though. You're actually going to the Revolutionary period, but you're going to Britain. That's where you're actually going to travel to.
That would be my luck, right? on a ship with a bunch of British soldiers. Like, oh, son of a bitch.
So here's the problem with time travel. If you're traveling in time, you'd have to get it just right so that you land when the Earth is in the same place, right? Because the Earth keeps spinning around the sun.
That'd be weird.
Yeah, you time travel, but suddenly you're just floating in space, and you gotta wait to get hit by the planet. Or
I'm in the Marianas Trench.
That would also
miles underneath the ocean, dead instantly.
Yeah. You're in the middle of an iceberg. What's the thing? A glacier. There it is. Got it. Something, yeah, and that's how Encino Man happened.
Yeah, so I would definitely go back. It's the concentration period for my master's degree in history. So of course, all right. So
I'm definitely going forward.
Go forward.
Yeah, I'm going forward for sure.
How far forward?
So I'd start working it out at about 300 years, and I just want to peek. I want to peek at where we're at in 300 years, and then I would be interested in how we got there. So I would do the future history thing. That's either we're all gone and I'd like to see how that happened, or we've progressed. Yeah. I actually heard Tidiocracy, and that should be a follow-up movie. I think that's that should be.
I can't even argue that, man. I agree with you.
We should make that happen. Verbal trademark. We're going to do that. I'll write it because I've got time right now.
I'll use mine.
No, Movieocracy. That would be a different one entirely. Yeah, that's a different audience. But Tidiocracy, I think we can make that happen.
I mean, it could maybe an OnlyFans site. Tidiocracy. You don't know. There's people out there that pay for it.
We need to get a hold of Dax Shepard though, because somebody is definitely baiting in that version of the movie. Well, we've gone sideways once again. Let's dive into the Grey Man scale. Last time we were together, I think it had been staying pretty consistent at 7.8 for a few episodes, and some things have happened in the last couple of weeks. We're recording on D-Day, actually, on 6/6/2021. Maybe we could talk a bit about that after, though. Let's talk about the Grey Man scale. How are we doing today?
Well, I mean, man, there has been a lot that's happened. We last time we gave the Grey Man scale, the pipeline had been hit, and it took several days for them to come back online, and it did affect the East Coast. Economically, they lost millions and millions of dollars.
And just to be clear, when you say the pipeline was hit with a hack attack, there wasn't a missile or anything.
No, we're talking cyber.
Cyber attack. Yeah.
And we just had the largest meat packing plant in the U.S. was just hit too. And attacks are starting to increase. It's not physical attacks that are increasing, but cyber warfare is on the rise drastically this year.
Yeah.
Now, we still have the Russians in the Ukraine that nobody seems to want to pay attention to. Portland is still burning. Nobody cares about that shit. there's been kind of a pause right now on the push for 2A,
right.
anti-2A stuff from this administration. I think what happened is they tried to push too much too fast, and they realized how bad that was. So they've backed off on that a little bit, but it's still there. The problem
Right.
is it's still there.
There is a balance, though, because we're seeing the Supreme Court start to pick up some cases, some activity anyway on the 2A. And there was actually something in California that recently happened about that, where there was an overturn by a higher court on outlawing some types of rifles. I don't have the details on it. I'm sorry, but I do remember seeing that recently in the news feed.
And that's pretty awesome too, because
Yeah.
California's in the Ninth Circuit Court, and they are historically very liberal.
Right.
So for them to take that up means that you can see that people are getting tired of the aggressive push to remove a constitutional right. It's not just Americans being a gun culture, which we've talked about before. We 100% are, and you can't deny that. Anybody who does is a poor student of history or a liar. We are a gun culture. It's part of our DNA from our inception. But I think you're starting to see courts and lobbyists and Americans in general getting tired of this aggressive push to dismantle part of the Constitution, because here's the issue. If you can take one, you can take all.
Right.
And if you want free speech, if you want the First Amendment to stand, that thing is only as strong as what we have to back it up with. And what we have to back it up with is the Second Amendment.
Oh, I thought it was journalists. I thought journalists were saving us.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
No, is that not it? I'm misinformed, apparently.
you are completely mistaken, sir. I apologize.
That happens.
No. Yeah, so for me, because of the aggressive cyber issues that we're having, and that's something that we're going to discuss today, I'm going to actually move it up. It's not an 8 yet, but we're a 7.9 because of that. We're going to bump it up to 0.1 because of that last attack.
Wow.
I thought about going 8, but man, that really is a precipice that I need to save.
Yeah, all right.
You know what I mean? Because I don't want to be the sky is falling chicken little guy.
Right. And so, okay, that makes sense. Like I would see getting into the 8. So let's talk about that. What does it look like when we get into 8 to 8.9? I would see physical attacks, maybe a spread of more cities like Portland.
Yep.
Not that it's not happening, but it's not happening to that degree that we see in Portland. Alien invasion, maybe.
Yep.
Well, that might do it.
You know what's crazy is the government has come out and admitted to other, but nobody cares.
UFOs.
That's how.
But all they're admitting is that there are UFOs. We've always known there are UFOs.
Right, but for the government to admit that, see, that's the thing.
All right.
For the government to admit that, and for nobody to care.
But see,
it's so bad right now in the U.S. The government's like, hey, we know there are UFOs, and everybody's like, meh.
Yeah, but okay, I get what you're saying. And for me, I guess, so my personal reaction, you're speaking for the idiocracy of the American situation. For me personally, they didn't say there are aliens. They didn't say that these are craft from another world or another galaxy or anything like that. It's just we don't know what they are. So I guess from that perspective, that's concerning that they haven't said that and now they are. Like what's changing? Why are we being shown this card in this hand? But so maybe it's good that we're not caring like we shouldn't care. Yeah.
Right away when they came out with that, admitted to the UFOs and that they've been tracking and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I have been connected to the government for 30 years. My first thought was, okay, why are they doing this and what are they distracting us from? Yeah. And if they admit this, then there's a shit ton more information out there, right? But again, the government flat out admits it, throws it out there with a ton of information, declassifies a bunch of stuff, and America is in such a shit sandwich state that everybody's like, whatever, cool,
that's fine.
We got worse.
Yeah, that's all you got. Tell us how Kennedy actually died. That's what we want. They're holding on to that card. That'll be in a month or two, right?
Yeah, I would say it's a Trump card, but I just triggered somebody with that word. But
Trump card.
Yeah,
that will. Yeah,
somebody just got triggered because I used his name. It's like saying Voldemort. If you say his name 3 times, he shows up behind you.
Oh,
like,
God.
This is the best podcast ever.
Not behind you. You don't want him behind you. Good Lord.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, no, you don't want Biden behind you. He'll just start sniffing you. I mean, I'm
Oh, I saw a meme this week, and I have to describe it. So I'm not going to bring it up on the screen or anything. But it was, you guys, okay? Do you guys remember the Deliverance? You've seen the
Yep.
Deliverance, right?
Yep.
You've seen Deliverance. Okay, the movie with the squeal like a pig, all that stuff. But you remember what the dude looked like that was playing the banjo? Remember
Yes.
that dude? They did a
Yes.
side by side of him and Biden looks like him grown up. The squinty eyes.
Oh,
The
I think
Eggman.
I've seen that one on the Facebook.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
that freaked me out a little bit. I get shivers right now. Like I kind of want to hand him a,
I mean,
a
but
banjo.
is it wrong though?
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's they're pretty damn close.
But here's the other thing: we have a president of the United States
Hold on.
in a hashtag Me Too society now. We have a president that is aggressively petting people and making comments at press conferences and meetings and rallies and stuff. And again, America's in such a shit sandwich state. Nobody cares.
It's fine.
Nobody
fine.
cares.
Yeah.
Bordering on aggressive sexual contact. To me, as an investigator, we would call that aggressive sexual contact. But nobody cares. Like, whatever, it's fine.
It's fine.
Rippos.
We're fine. All right.
The president likes to sniff people. Nobody cares.
He's entitled. He can smell whoever he wants. He's got a whole military backing him up.
I mean, maybe they should just play man, walk and start sniffing people. I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah, so here we are.
All right, so we're at 7.9 and on our way to 8, unless you change your ways, you freaking idiots.
I know, for real. And for me too, an 8 and above is you see more physical actions taken by citizens or agents of a foreign power. So you get to like agents of a foreign power, to me that's a 9.
Yeah.
But if the citizenry starts burning more cities and it's more rebellious, or we start seeing more shit like we did on June 6th and that kind of stuff, that definitely pushes me into the 8.
Let's talk on an upcoming show about what it will take to get the number down. We've talked about going up next time. Yeah, let's talk about how we can get it down, because today we're not going to go there.
No.
We will be talking about cyber attacks and things like that. But I think we'd like to spend some time. I would like for us to spend some time. We didn't plan for it, but we're just past Memorial Day and we're on D-Day as we're recording here. And just maybe you want to lay some thoughts down about those parts of our history and what they mean for us today.
I think it is definitely a day that doesn't get enough recognition. When you're talking about fighting evil around the world and changing the world for the better, June 6th, 1944 was a massive, monumental turning point for the world. Yeah. That's the day we got a foothold on the European continent and started pushing back Hitler, fascism, and European domination. We started really fighting the enemy on their home turf. And if you think about this, the waves at D-Day, if you were in the first wave and you look at, they show those pictures of the landing crafts with all the young kids, and they were young. Yeah. I mean, you're talking 18 to 22, and they're all kitted up, infantry. And we had partners from all around the world, Canada, Great Britain, us. We all landed. We all landed there, and we all lost tremendous amounts. But the first wave, if you're in a boat, landing craft, you look around, only 1 in 4 of you survives the landing on the first wave. 1 in 4. And that's depending on what leg sector you were in. Like Omaha Beach, an even higher casualty rate. And I get that there was a draft, but a lot of young boys volunteered and joined the Army during World War II. Massive, just an incredible, massive sacrifice. And that doesn't even take into account what's near and dear to my heart as the airborne, the 101st and the 82nd, and our partner countries jumping into D-Day early that morning too, behind enemy lines, and the massive casualties that we took on jumps. Entire planes, C-47s full of paratroopers, just exploding in the air. Nobody ever getting out of the plane. if there is a day that we pushed back and took a foothold against the enemy and said this far and no farther, it was D-Day. And the sacrifice that those young men made should be thought about routinely throughout the year. You are free in this world, in the Western Hemisphere. You are literally free because of the young men that hit that beach.
Yeah. It changed the face of our country for sure.
100%.
Yeah. Well, good. Thank you for that. I think it's worth spending some time when these events come up, and I appreciate your insights on that. So that being said, let's talk about the shit sandwich, I believe you keep calling it, that we're in today. And I'll start with my perspective quick on what I saw over the last couple of weeks about the beef industry. Right. So there were attacks, and as a citizen Jim, just mind my own business, and stuff starts showing up in my news feeds. There are a couple things that happen when I see stuff like that. Number one, well, shit, the price is going to go up, so I'm going to have to pay more because this is going to take some time to get fixed. I can assume that it's coming from Russia or one of the countries that is our enemy, or some group that is our enemy of some kind, and they'll get it fixed, and then we'll move on. And that's life. We just have to deal with this now. And then there's also part of me that thinks, are we just now realizing that these things are happening, and has it been happening for a long time and we just don't know about it? So a couple different angles that I know that you plan to dive into, but just, again, I always try to speak for just those of us that aren't as deep into, all the, like you are in the middle of the shit sandwich, and I'm like the crust. I'm the crusty old heel that you didn't have enough bread left, and so you just slap it on there and I'll make do. But you're all up in that shit. So yeah, lay it on us. How are we doing with being hacked these days?
Best analogy ever. I like it. Well, and so if you do take the latest cyber attack on the Brazilian-based JBS company, which is the meat packing and distribution company that was hit with ransomware. This attack actually shut down facilities in the US, Canada, and Australia. And we know, because we've traced it back as a government, that it came from Russia, a Russian cyber crime group called REvil. The problem with just saying it's a cyber crime group is that Russia, China, North Korea, several of our big state-sponsored enemy countries, they state sponsors these groups, right? So REvil is a private criminal organization on paper, but in emerging warfare, which cyber is the emerging battlefield, they're actually a state-sponsored. So I personally say with confidence, Mike Cyan personally say with confidence that this was a state-sponsored attack. And the reason why I say that is Russia and China know. North Korea is a little weird, and they know, but I mean, their government's mental stability is tenuous at best, right? Russia and China know that a physical ground attack on the U.S. is not good business. It's not a smart decision for them, because both Russia and China know two things in their history. They either know economic expansion or warfare. Right. And look back at the history of both countries, and that is true for both. So why in the world would they physically invade a country when that shuts off cash flow, right? But if you want to disrupt us to become the largest supplier of things or goods for the world, then, well, I mean, the best way to do it is cyber. Hit us on our banks, hit us in our distribution facilities, hit us in our infrastructure, our industrial stuff, that kind of thing. So,
and it really seems easy to do at this point because there are so many holes in security online.
Nuts, man. So this JBS, when it hit in May, it cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. It is insane. But the thing is this is just one of many attacks in just the month of May around the world.
All right.
From China, North Korea, and Russia.
Yeah, I have a feeling you might tell us about some more, maybe. Is that accurate?
Perhaps. Well, I mean, North Korea hacking group is responsible for an espionage campaign that has hit the Security Agency and Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Sri Lanka, and a couple of like in Hong Kong, and they went to the Seoul National University and hacked them.
Hmm.
The FBI and Australian Cybersecurity Center warned of an ongoing, it's called an Avedon ransomware attack, and that's targeting countries in Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, China, Costa Rica, the Czech Republic, France, Germany, Indonesia, Italy, Jordan. I mean, the list, and there's like 12 countries, and it's all coming out of Russia.
Yeah. All right.
And you can, I mean, I could continually go down this. There's a list. And I recommend if you really want to see an ongoing, real-time, non-biased rundown of ransomware and cyber attacks around the world and kind of how big this is, because I mean, honestly, I could just read this for an hour. It's the Center for Strategic and International Studies. It's called CSIS. I highly recommend you go there. They have a page specifically labeled significant cyber incidents, and this page, I'm just going to scroll down. You can go all the way back to just the beginning of the year in January, and that page is dozens of them.
So okay, I'm going to back up a second here. Center for Strategic
and International Studies.
National Studies.
Yep,
so
international studies.
How do you know, and I know you've vetted it, so I'm just going to walk you through the process. How do you know that they're a independent source?
Well, they're a viable source. It's a .org site, which means it's a think tank.
Yeah.
I used a lot of their stuff when I was in grad school for my master's degree in international security studies. They put out a journal quarterly that I used to read all the time when I was in grad school and when I was on active duty, still over in Europe doing these things. There's tons of sections that you can dive into, from climate change, cybersecurity, defense and security, economics. Of course, that was a big one for me. Global health, human rights, international development. They've got a section just on energy and sustainability. So it's not just defense. It is what the world is looking like globally in international security.
All right. And as the crusty dude, as the crusty citizen, then I think of something like this, even though it's .org, and it cites its sources, right? I'm assuming it cites its sources.
It absolutely does.
There is still some agenda to putting that information out there, right? And you have to.
There always will be.
Yeah. There's always an agenda.
Always will be.
You can't get around that. So with that, now the list, I'm not looking at the list yet. I'll put the link in for folks that are listening and watching. But does it talk about what the U.S. is? I'm assuming the U.S. has state-sponsored cyber attacks happening also. It would be stupid not to in this case.
Oh God, yeah. It would be dumb for anyone to think that we don't. And actually, on my list, one of the things that I talk about on there, going back to, I've got so many notes. I definitely have more notes than we have time for in the show. But if you go back to, I know, if you go back to the Snowden leaks, the Edward Snowden leaks in 2013, love him or hate him, regardless of how you feel about him, his leaks actually exposed a global internet surveillance operation by the U.S. and 5 of our partner countries. So it gave countries like Russia and China cause to flaunt their internet sovereignty,
right.
Consider internet control and censorship. And it also gave them the ability to then, or the cause to go ahead and build their version of that and become very aggressive, which we've seen since 2014. We've really seen that grow. But yeah, I mean, of course we have. We've had a program. The U.S. military invented the internet.
Yeah.
So we have had a way to monitor it since we invented it. And I'm retired, but we as an entity, the DOD, of course we've had programs. And there are active programs out there right now, obviously, that I can't talk about. And even when I leave my job, I won't be able to because the government's putting me on.
Dang it.
Yeah, they're putting me on a non-disclosure agreement.
You're screwing us over here, man. How are we going to grow
Yeah.
this thing if you can't tell the secrets? But so
Yeah.
I do need to ask, because you are so close to retirement, and you just talked about how important economics has been
Yes.
in what you've done. Are you prepared yet to tell everyone that you actually are Jack Reach, or do you have to wait until you're retired officially again? For those that haven't seen the show, get yourself some of that Amazon Prime and watch 2 seasons, I think, of Jack
Oh, you mean
Reach.
Jack Ryan?
Oh, Jack Ryan. Oh, yeah. Jack
Yeah.
Reach is, that's another one. No, Jack Ryan. Yeah, Jack Ryan. Yes, Ryan. Yeah, that the one played by Jim Halpert.
Yeah. Kransky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So host Jim is firmly convinced that I'm Jack Ryan. I'm not,
well,
by any stretch of the imagination. But.
Well, that's what Jack Ryan would say if he was trying to deny it. I'm not the only one that thinks that, by the way. I'm not the only person that slept with Mike that thinks that, as a matter of fact. How about that? How about that?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well played. I mean,
Thank you.
Can't even deny that. Damn it.
We're doing good things here. So
yeah, Rochelle got on that bandwagon as soon as host Jim mentioned it. She's like, "Of course he is. Why wouldn't he be?" I'm like, God damn it, that is not me.
But isn't it? Isn't it though?
Yeah, it just sounds good on paper. But
yeah.
No, I will not be admitting that I am Jack Ryan upon retirement.
But we can say that the U.S. also has cyber, whatever you call it, cyber attacks happening, and others are
offensive and defensive
that was my question.
Capabilities is the best way to put it.
Okay, defensive, offensive. I'm good with both.
Well, defensive, but we have offensive and defensive capabilities.
Yeah. So the CSIS, does that site, does it list those as well? Like, will we see that, or is it? Yeah. So that's an agenda that, from my perspective, and I think we need to call that out, because our listeners are, we're not fair. We're not here to be.
Yeah.
Everybody feels what they feel, and your truth is your truth. That's not what you'll hear on the Gray Man podcast.
Absolutely not.
But if we don't call that out, I feel like we're just going to become another voice in the void of their side is wrong and our side is right, and fuck everybody else. That's not what we're here for.
You 100% can't deny that we have that. The government, when cyber attacks happen, if you read closely to press releases, you will see that the government will say that their certain section caught this and then did X, Y, and Z to subvert it or make it right. Or that's how we catch these things. Is we have entire sections of the government that are in cyber attack and crime and defensive cyber awareness and all of that stuff. That's all they do daily. And of course, as an offensive capability, man, I got to be careful how I talk about it.
All right.
Of course, as an offensive capability, or as a country, you would want an offensive capability.
Yeah.
You would be ignorant not to have that, right?
Yeah.
Because, as I've said a couple of times, cyber is the new battlefield.
Yeah.
It 100% is. And we kind of move by a certain moral code-ish as a government.
Well said. That's better than a shit sandwich right there.
But
moral code-ish.
It is much more restricted than other countries around the world. We still are much more restrictive on what we do because we have this pesky thing called the Constitution. And I will tell you that if you watch the Snowden interview, that's one of the reasons he says he let this information out. He believed that it was violating American citizens' rights, like their 4th and 5th Amendment rights and that kind of stuff. And I have my own personal opinion, and we could dive into that in one whole show too.
Sure.
I'd like to do that after I'm done, though.
After
my NDA doesn't cover that, so I can 100% talk about my feelings on that one.
All right.
Good and bad, because I have both. I have my feelings as an agent of the government, and I have my feelings as a private citizen. Knowing what he exposed makes me kind of pissed off. For a lot of reasons. Anyway, but he did show that through his leaks that we do have the offensive, not just defensive capability, because we've always kind of said, well, of course we have defensive capabilities as a government. Why wouldn't we protect our citizens from evil governments like China and Russia?
Mm-hmm.
What we never talked about was our offensive capabilities. And he was like, hey, motherfucker, guess what? Not only do we have them, but we're using them against U.S. citizens as well as foreign entities. So, but I mean, you can go all the way back a decade and you can walk through how cyber attacks have grown and why it's an emerging, I wouldn't even say emergent threat anymore. I would say it's a consistent threat that you need to take a look at and pay attention to, because most of it, I mean, our government gets hit all the time from target countries all the time. They're trying to penetrate the firewalls at the Department of Defense and Homeland Security. And I mean, that's a constant. But again, we probably do the exact same thing to other foreign countries.
Sure. I would expect so. Yeah.
It's a mode of warfare. It's a mode, actually, best way to put it, it is another modality of warfare. You have kinetic warfare. You have psychological warfare. You have the intelligence war that's going on. And now we have cyber warfare that is a real battlefield, not an emerging battlefield anymore. It's a real battlefield that we and other countries are a part of.
Yeah. It feels a little bit like Cold War era where we have these buttons that we can push and we will push them. Yeah, we will push them if you push them, but we won't push them unless you push them, but don't push them because we'll push them.
Think about that. I mean, we could go back to like 2011 with the first Sony attack, which wasn't that bad, but the global payment systems attack, and the global payment systems is a company. It is actually I think it's the third largest global payments, like internet payment company in the world. They got hit in 2012. And it was like 1.5 million user accounts that were exposed, and it was like $100 million in damages, which now doesn't seem like much. But when you think about 2012, $100 million is a lot of money, right?
Which is crazy. Less than a decade ago, 100 million seemed like a lot, and we're in the trillions and quadrillions now. That doesn't even. Well,
in the very next year, the Snowden leaks came out. I mean, but I mean, go even farther back. So we'll go 11 years back to the Stuxnet attack in 2010. And the Stuxnet was a ransom, not a ransomware. It was a viral attack on Iran's nuclear weapons.
That
facilities.
That sounds like a problem.
Yeah. Gotta be careful.
We're just gonna check our brain for a second and
recalibrate. So what I'm using is open source information, by the way. The one specifically was designated to destroy SCADA equipment, and that's the stuff that Iran used to I'm not like a nuclear guy, sorry, but to create fissile material for bombs.
All right.
And it was successful in destroying equipment at several locations because what it did is it made their centrifuges spin at a faster rate. So
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. If anybody else is watching, I need you to check out Host Mike's eyebrows. Before we started the show, we were messing around with some filters. I can't believe you kept that on.
I can't believe it took you this long to figure out that I kept it on.
Well, I just realized that your eyebrows are over the front of your hat. That is freaking awesome. Yep. Yes, when you smiled, I noticed that. Well, wow, yes, you have.
I was trying to put like an Easter egg somewhere in the show, but you ruined it.
That's it. So, okay. So anybody that's listening right now, go to our YouTube page, just search the Gray Man Podcast. And while you're there, please subscribe. We could use that as well. But I can't believe it. I can't believe it took me this long either.
Well, as soon as I found those filters, I thought there's got to be a way that I could probably put something in a couple episodes to see if somebody finds it.
Oh, dang. Well, we should have planned that better. Now I've ruined it for everybody. But next time we'll focus on the nipples. Maybe that'll be fun.
We could do the green lips that you had earlier.
I did have some green lips, but then I thought awesome. I've got a green screen behind me.
Oh, then
back the curtain. I would be like my lips would just be gone.
It'd be awesome. Be a good time.
That would be. Yeah. So anyway, what were we talking about?
So like the Stuxnet account.
Yeah.
or that attack. That was a state-sponsored attack from certain countries on the Iranian nuclear program. So
an attack like that, when
just
we
take
talk
that
about,
for
because I think back to war games, right? The Matthew
Yep.
Broderick, all that stuff. So somebody dials in and they take control over the nuclear devices. That seems too simple. Like what they're probably doing is hacking in and just causing havoc, right? Like just changing a little bit of code.
Well,
They're
and that's
not
what it
necessarily ready
was.
to push the button, right?
Yeah, it wasn't. They didn't go in and take control of the entire nuclear program. What they
Right.
did is they went in. They purposefully changed a.
Am I getting too deep for you?
Yeah, baby. They changed a program.
Let's say, for example, that there was some attack that recently happened that may have involved launching turds into a swimming pool.
Okay,
And
so basically, they went in and they changed an algorithm that caused the turd launcher to fire at a higher rate.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Knowing that turd launcher would inherently destroy itself.
Gotcha.
Because
nice.
of that higher firing rate.
Well, yeah, let's do that. I don't want turds in the pool. I'd rather they just blow up in the tube.
Yeah. So, baby. So, I mean, that's not even an economic attack. That is a cyber attack on a specific state-sponsored program that would be used for warfare.
Oh, right? Absolutely. I could. That makes perfect sense. As a matter of fact, yes, I would like to have ownership. I would like our government to have ownership of that code, please.
Yeah, and why wouldn't you, right? Yeah. So,
which feels very Stark Industry-ish,
but it's still there. So
it's out there.
We do that all of the time. I mean, like all of the time.
So this war is happening. We don't hear about it a lot because why don't we hear about it a lot?
Because we don't want our adversaries to then know our capabilities. Why would you want that to happen? You know what I mean?
So this feels a little bit like yes, I do know, and it feels a bit like a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. This isn't true. None of this is really happening, and because we can't know, we can't prove it. It's not really happening at that level. These are just isolated incidents. I don't believe that's true, but I could see that would be a response that someone could have, right?
And somebody could have that line of thinking. The problem is that the information about the Stuxnet attack is out there.
Yeah.
And none of that's hidden. It was released fairly quickly, actually. Yeah. And of course, obviously, there's more to it than just the open source stuff. But the open source stuff is pretty clear about what happened and why. It's also it's pretty clear about implicating which countries they believe created Stuxnet and why. And where it came from. And if you go back and you read the Snowden leak, the papers from the Snowden leak, you'll know.
So we are going to have to talk about that. I made a note of post-retirement subjects that we're going to have to talk about. Snowden is one of them because I've got a lot of questions there and some opinions, believe it or not. But one, you talked about Easter eggs in the show. I've got one for today's show. How many times has producer Jim had to step away from the mic to belch? I had burps. I got the burps going on today because for lunch today I had a salad, which is healthy, with jalapeno summer sausage cut up into it.
Ooh,
which
that's spicy.
It wasn't like, it's not hot spicy, but it's right about my third rib up. It's just like I keep getting the herps there. So if you're hearing some extra sounds in the background, it's my gas. My gas there. Yes, thank you.
I got you.
You do. And I'm so embarrassed. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, I think before the show, as we were ramping up. I have this little soundboard. I've got little different things. I've got some sounds.
Come get some.
Right. That brings back some memories for us. And I don't have a fart sound effect. So we just have to do it live. If you ever hear a fart on this show, it's live until you hear otherwise. It's really happening.
Yeah.
Or someone hacked us and put a fart into our show. That could
that would be awesome. If somebody did that, that would be amazing. Please, somebody hack us and put fart sounds in this bad boy.
I would love it if they the one episode that I did with changing your intentions about the gays. I believe is how you put it. At one point, that would be fun to have someone just put farts in our show. That would be awesome.
Awesome.
And in the meantime, and then we can blame the Russians, right?
Yeah, of course we can.
Yeah.
So over the last, I'm circling all the way back,
Yes,
going
come
back
back.
to, sorry, I'm just punching my mic.
Is that what you call him?
Yep.
Little Mike,
Little Mike.
Big Mike.
So we go, I mean, every year there have been progressively more. In 2013, there were a couple big ones. Adobe was in one, North Korea, and then there was a Sony attack again in 2014. But there were 6 big attacks, cyber attacks in 2014. Sony Entertainment being the big one.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
In 2015, there were 5. There are more than 5, but we're talking 5 big attacks that were tracked. The biggest one being the Office of Personnel Management in the U.S. And that actually exposed the personnel records of U.S. government employees, to include myself.
Yeah, I remember that.
Millions of them. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So my entire background investigations from previous years and the programs that I had been read into and all of that stuff got released.
I think I was notified, because we talked about that obviously, but then I think I was notified separately because I was part of one of your background checks. So my information was out, just as minute as it was, but I think I got a notification about that, if I remember.
Yeah,
right.
You've actually been referenced in several of my background investigations over the years.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry about your luck. So, and the other one was actually the Ukrainian They had a Ukrainian industrial attack. It was on their power grid, and it was the third world industrial attack up into that point on a power grid, Stuxnet being the other one, and then the Shamoon virus being another one. But it was traced. This one on the Ukrainian power grid was traced specifically back to Russia, and it just so happened to occur right before Russia invaded Crimea.
Weird.
Yeah, and then of course the Russian private entities that do this, air quotes, kept up their attacks even after the invasion. So in 2016, there were 8 attacks, the biggest one being for us, the most important one for the U.S. being the hacking of the Democratic National Convention.
Oh, right.
And all the information that came out there. 2017, there were 7. The biggest one that year was Equifax, another America's largest consumer credit company. 145.5 million accounts of Americans, British, and Canadians were stolen from that company.
And it was, the result of that is things will just never be the same. There's nothing that can be done. Yeah.
Yep. 2018, there were 7. The biggest one of that was actually the Cambridge Analytical attack, if anybody remembers that. Facebook was implicated on that one, tracing trends to basically craft your social media feed to your political slant, or make you move in a political slant way. 2019, there was 4 big ones. Capital One Finance was the biggest one of that. 100 million Americans and 6 million Canadian accounts. So for the most part, it's economic. And then for 2020 and 2021, I'm serious, you've got to go to CSIS and read it. That 2020 and 2021 were massive cyber attack years. There's so many. I cannot even begin to delve into that stuff right now because it was just continual from North Korea, China, and Russia, just over and over and over and over and over again.
So if that's
economic,
and so the economy is becoming like a non-thing at this point. It feels like the average person, there's the 1% that are affected and controlling everything, and the rest of us are just along for the ride. So what if there are cyber attacks on things that are economic? I can't control it. It's not going to affect me. There's nothing that even need.
Though. When you think about it, Capital One, a large finance company, shut those down. If you can shut that down, why can't you go after U.S. Bank or a couple other big banks in the U.S. and just shut them down? Could you imagine what would happen to you if tomorrow you logged into your bank, whoever it is, and then everything you had was gone?
Yeah. Well, okay. So why hasn't that happened? Why hasn't it happened then?
I don't know yet. One of my theories though is that you can see from 2010 to 2021 how aggressive it has become and more not random, but consistent attacks is they're getting better at their craft.
Mm-hmm.
And companies and cybersecurity is always behind the power curve when it comes
Right.
to cyber attacks and defending cyber attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think is they're just trying to get better at doing it so that they can attack a power. You don't even have to attack a bank, but imagine if you could shut down Dow.
Oof. That hits people where it hurts.
For not forever.
Yeah.
Shut down Dow for a week. Shut down the Nikkei index for a week in the Far East, or the European index. Shut them down for 1 week.
And
could you imagine the U.S. economy or the world economy of Dow? The world economy went down if Dow went down for a week.
And I think where I really get worried, because that would suck if any one of those happened, but where I become really concerned about our species is if it's a coordinated attack to all of them or multiple, both, the EU and US markets, or Japanese and US markets, because it's going to affect us, right?
Here's the crazy thing, that it doesn't have to be all of them or two of them. It has to be one of them. Look at 2008 and the housing market crash. When the housing market crashed in the US in 2008, it bottomed out our economy pretty severely, which also made the European index crash and the Nikkei crash. Just the U.S. housing market, because of how securities and futures are traded on the market, it affected the European and the Asian markets so severely that it put them in an economic downturn for about 5 to 7 years. We're actually just crawling out of that.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's a good point, but I want to connect this to another conversation that we've had. So stick with me here, because if that's true, so 2008, we felt it, right? And we survived, and people I know are fine. I don't know anybody that lost so much that they didn't survive, or that it really hurt them so severely that in the long run they didn't make it, whatever it is. Success could still be had. So if all of that is true, these things that are happening really don't affect us, because we'll get back to it. So the thing I want to connect this to, though, is conversations we've had about really impacting us at the dinner table. Like, this isn't. It costs more, but the government is just making more money. So we're getting more money. Things are costing more, but we're getting more, and it's all free, and it just doesn't matter anyway. So my fear in all this is, you're right when you say it isn't affecting us yet, but when it does, because we keep leveling up, we take another step, step. When this thing actually crashes, when one domino falls, it isn't just that the Dow gets attacked, it's a domino that falls, that the next one falls, and the next one falls, and suddenly we have no electricity and no transport of medicine.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my point, right? Yeah. Just take the Dow, for example. You shut down the Dow for a week, and futures and stocks cannot be, and securities can't be traded. Banks go bankrupt.
Right.
Like big banks and big security companies. And when they go bankrupt, and then industrial companies don't have the capital any longer to produce petrol or any petroleum products, or the food that gets shipped to your local market, they don't have the ability to pay for their transportation mechanisms. We're literally 7 days away from your grocery store being completely empty. If the wheels stop turning in a factory, all factories in the U.S., it's 7 days in the grocery store.
And the worst that
less than that for medication.
Right. And the worst that we've seen recently is the pandemic, which we survived. Us introverts loved it.
Well, because nothing shut down. You could still get things. I mean, toilet paper was hard to come by, but again, people have been cleaning their ass for millennia without toilet paper.
Corn stock went up on the cob anyway.
But that is my fear as well. If one really good major strike on infrastructure happens, it will be the catalyst which dumps everything else. And what I see as a trend looking back a decade is more aggressive, more frequent, and more effective attacks every single year
Hmm.
happen
Hmm.
that are growing in strength and size and inability to stop.
Yeah.
That's the issue. And the reason why I kind of wanted to talk about this today is because nobody is really talking about that side of it. And it sounds kind of conspiracy theory-esque, but the problem is we have data to back it up to show that it's not conspiracy theory-esque. I have data to show you that these attacks have been increasing over the last decade. It's not just Mike Science saying that it has.
Right.
They actually have.
Yeah.
And that's the big ones that we talk about, not the everyday stuff that's hitting the DoD firewall that we can repel.
Right. Right. Well, we've got, I think you mentioned early in the show, we could talk about this for a long time. You've got more examples and there's things that can be read. I'm sure we'll be swinging back around to this again in the future because this is world events now. What we're talking
it's
about.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, we will see something at some point that is a major break that either causes us to get better or causes us to fall apart. Major break. But for now, I would like to challenge you in asking about the results of last shitty choices. You were meant to chew with your mouth open for quite some time, and I'll tell our listeners that I visited Mike's house recently and saw his son getting ready to graduate high school and get ready to ship off to the Marines. And I saw Mike chewing with his mouth closed, so I do have to chastise you about that. But I will give you the opportunity to speak about your son Hunter for a moment before we get into this week's shitty choices. So go ahead, tell us about how bad you are.
So I did not chew with my mouth open at all.
Once you did once, and I about gagged. So thank you for stopping.
I can't do. I just couldn't bring myself to do it, knowing that I was supposed to. But yeah, so my son, my youngest, Hunter, who's 18, he graduated from high school this year, and then on May 31st, on Memorial Day, we took him out to Fargo, and he shipped to the Marine Corps. So Hunter is currently at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego. He's in quarantine right now, waiting for his first day of receiving week of Marine Corps boot camp. So they have to quarantine for a little bit before they can, because of the COVIDs, you know, before they can actually start basic training. But he's got what they call their green beans, his PT uniform, and they get roll call every morning at 0500. He's had his drill instructors yell at the group a couple times. He's got a roommate living where he is, likes his roommate. We actually had a chance to talk to him last night.
Nice.
We've been waiting a while for it.
It feels like he's getting to ramp up to what will become boot camp. Like it's almost, is he cheating? Is he cheating this whole system?
I feel like it's like an on-ramp, right? They're just kind of easing him into Marine Corps basic, but
I can't speak to that. I feel ashamed that I even brought it up, but yeah, I'm proud of him. I've known him since he was I've known him since he was in your testicles, basically.
Yeah, you have. And you know what? He's in great spirits. He's being Hunter. He's cracking jokes. Literally, what he said last night is he said, "I just really wish I would shave my head and let's get this shit started."
Ah, gotcha.
He's at that point that he wants to. He knows what's coming.
Sure.
He knows that, that there's mind games, there's physical games. The DIs are always going to scream at him. There's nothing he's going to do that's going to be right. We've talked about what receiving week is kind of like. Not that I went to Marine Corps boot camp, but I have several friends that have, so we've passed on that knowledge for him. Sure. What Black Friday is all about in Marine Corps boot camp and receiving week.
They go shopping? That's weird.
Well, they do. It's weird.
Yeah.
So he's kind of he is ready to get the adventure started, and it's going to be a long process. We won't get him back until Thanksgiving. So.
Oh wow! All right.
Yeah. Instead of being 13 weeks for Marine Corps boot camp is actually only 12 weeks. Receiving week doesn't count. It's 13 weeks at San Diego for him, at Camp Pendleton for him. Actually, so he's not at Camp Pendleton. The whole base is Camp Pendleton, but there's the MCRD, which is a separate side of it. The Marine Corps Recruit Depot, where they do basic training. So he won't go to, he really hasn't even been to MCRD yet. And normally that's 13 weeks starting at receiving week. Well, he gets to be there for 14 weeks because of the COVIDs. So
neat.
He's just ready to get this shit started.
I don't know a lot about math, but that doesn't add up to Thanksgiving.
Well, he's also got what's called MCT, Marine Corps combat training, that he has to go to afterwards. And
Oh,
so
all right.
his job specific is MOS, his military occupational specialty training. He'll go to directly afterwards.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Does he know what that is yet?
He does. Actually, he's going to be an MP, a 5811, I believe it is.
He's going to be a cop.
MOS. He's going to be a cop.
Freaking
Weird.
family tradition.
Weird.
Yeah, how'd that happen?
So here's a crazy little universe-ism that we found out this week. Hunter is going to be, and this doesn't violate OPSEC or personal security because it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter is part of 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marine Corps Recruit Battalion, India Company. We don't know his platoon yet. We'll find that out here pretty soon. But he's 3rd Battalion, India Company. That is the exact same battalion and company that his grandfather was in
what the hell?
3 years ago at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego.
Damn.
My dad got shipped off to Vietnam.
Wow.
He's in 3rd Battalion, India Company. So,
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's a legacy Marine right now.
No kidding.
We'll find out what platoon he's in shortly.
So you're kind of the black sheep then. You have Marines on both sides of you, and
Yep,
there's
Army and Air Force in the middle.
Yeah, there you go. Got them almost all covered.
Well, I tried to convince him to be a Ranger like his dad. I told him that it's like the Marine Corps, but with a better budget. But the uniform just got him. Actually, Hunter and I talked about it before he left. And his because he's going into reserves, he switched his contract from active duty to reserves because he got accepted to the university here to be a business and accounting major, which I thought was awesome.
Well, that is, yeah.
But he said, Dad, if I'm going to go into the military, knowing that his unit deploys, as a lot of reserve and guard units do, support active duty missions around the world consistently. He said, I want to go into the service that will provide me the best, most effective initial training, period. And you can't deny that the Marine Corps has that, because whether you're a cook, a cop, or a helicopter pilot, every Marine is a rifleman first and foremost. They're all trained to be plugged into an infantry platoon. And that's what he wanted. He wanted the best training up front. And I appreciate that, because it took me a while to get what I consider the best tactical training available, which was going through Ranger School. So it took me a while to get there. So so that was his decision.
Yeah, he gets done with this and then he goes to school to be business and accounting.
Yeah.
Like in 10, 15 years, we need to have this conversation again about the Marine accountant. I think that's going to be awesome. That's the guy I want doing my numbers right there.
And what's awesome is when he comes back, when it comes to Spectrum Tactical, then I have a guy who's trained in Marine Corps marksmanship and Marine Corps combat training and that kind of stuff. Hunter already knows he's getting put on the payroll as a range instructor.
Nice.
So
I should hope so.
I've got that going for me, even though
nice.
the boy has been training with me since he could hold a pistol effectively and point it correctly down the range. But so that's my boy. We're pretty proud of him. We get a chance to talk to him one more time before he steps on those yellow footprints, PRD San Diego, and starts basic training. So last night when we talked to him, we had Abby, his girlfriend. We made sure that she was here.
Nice.
Speakerphone. And Kaylin, my oldest daughter, came over, and we all got a chance to just listen and have a good time with him.
Very cool.
And laugh and joke and listen to Hunter being Hunter.
Yeah.
Because it's a going to basic training or boot camp. It's a stressful time. It's at 18. It's the first big trip he's ever taken by himself.
Yeah.
And he's all by himself. I mean, he has a roommate, but you know what I mean? He's by himself. This is an adventure, his first adult adventure that he is taking on his own. And that's stressful in and of itself. But he's just the same old goofy dumbass that he's always been. And we loved hearing that, He was Hunter. And of course, that makes us miss him more. I did, as a guy, as a dad, as a guy who's been to combat and a guy who's been through combat training, I did not think it was going to affect me as much as it did, losing him for basic training. Yeah. But so here's a little, a personal moment that I will share with the Gray Man podcast listeners. I have not been able to go to his room yet.
Yeah.
I brought his truck into the driveway to get it out of the street, and I'm going to clean it today at some point because I'm pretty sure I got hepatitis stepping into his truck. It was that dirty. but I have not been able to bring myself to go inside of his bedroom yet. And that'll happen sooner or later. But the gentler side of the gray man.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
And I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up because this is, I mean, you've got a lot of chapters. We all have chapters in our lives. And this is new for the Mr. and Mrs. Gray Man.
Yeah.
Because you guys are empty nesters now. And there's the whole new stuff that goes into it. I mean, it's a whole new chapter that you're facing for better or for worse. And that's part of life. So there we are. So better and worse things need to be addressed in the shitty choices at this point.
Son of
yeah, we're not going to let you go just because you're all mushy at this point.
How did you know?
Well, it's been hot here in North Dakota. I've made a lot of stew in my it's been a lot of just nasty hot up here, Africa hot. But what we're doing right now is the Gray Man shitty choices, and you've got the chalice of gray, and you have twice-sided die. You're going to shake that twice. We're still facing the big shit. Your socks are always damp when you put them on. You could choose that. Today may be the day that you have to choose it.
We'll see. We'll see how the fates align with me today.
All right, fate number 1.
Number 18.
Number 18. Oh, this is a long one. Hold on now. Every day, saying whatever was your most common word the day before causes you to shart a little bit. No cheating by saying an obscure word over and over at the end of each day. It has to be the most common word used in normal conversation with other people, with dogs, with yourself. It has to be like the most common word. So so far today, maybe cyber would be one. Or you went to church, maybe you said a lot of amens, whatever it might be. Yeah. But you've got some things that you say pretty frequently, pretty regularly, and every time you say it the next day would be a shart a little bit. So it's probably going to change every day, because the first 3 or 4 times you say your most common day from the day before, you'll probably learn. And I'm not even so concerned for you with the smell or the change of underpants. It's just the discomfort of being just damp in your butt crack
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And the amount of underwear that I'm going to go through.
Yeah. You're probably just going to need to switch to Depends.
Well, it depends.
It does. It depends. Yeah. So there you go. That's a lot to chew on, right there.
All right. So that's number 1. My
that
most
is
common
number 1
word of the day previously. Every time I say it, makes me shart a little bit.
There's a little bit.
Okay.
And number 2
is number 12.
Number 12. 2 words. Penile hemorrhoids.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. The itch, the pain, the visual aspect.
Oh my God.
I want you to choose that one.
God. So
we're talking about sharting. We're talking about penile hemorrhoids.
Or wet socks.
Or your socks are always damp when you put them on.
Well,
I'm going to rule out first.
All right. I'm going to rule out penis hemorrhoids. That's got to go right away.
All right. Well, that's impressive.
Yeah. Little Mike, I got to take care of him.
I don't even know what happened.
I don't mean just being facetious.
So yeah, for our listeners, I work on these throughout each week, in between shows. I'll maybe add ones, maybe I'll rearrange them, I'll reword some things, I'll go back to make sure they all make sense. I've been working on these for months, and I can absolutely tell you that when I wrote that, I was having a very, very bad day. Penile hemorrhoids. You were going to suffer, had nothing to do with Mike. It was all my stuff. I probably should have been talking to a counselor, but instead I wrote those 2 words for you. So there you go. So that one's out.
Yep, that one's out. So it's between wet socks and sharting myself.
When you say the most common word. And I want to advocate against the sharting thing, because just imagine every day in class, the word that you use, like when you're teaching, you're coaching, the words that you use that are very common that you're going to have to use again the next day. Let's say that it's a very frisky time in the Gray Man household, and for a few days in a row, everybody's just having a good time. But that second day is going to be rough, because
you, sir,
yeah,
literally just changed my mind with that.
So I just need you to think about that, because damp socks, I know how bad that is for you, but I worry about your butt. I worry about your butt. That's how good of friends we are. And think about the rashing, the rash.
That's actually what I thought about, was the butt rash that would happen from sharding, because I say them, and I have
You're gonna need some Desitin.
couple key words that I say when I coach.
Yeah.
Pretty consistently. And I coach every day of the week.
Yeah, you do. And your grandson and you will share tubes of Desitin until he's out of diapers.
Yeah, I know.
That's what had happened. Yeah.
That's just bonding right there.
Gold bonding.
Yeah. So we've got starting every time I say a common word, or wet socks. You make a compelling argument, sir, about, special time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm actually, I can't believe I'm going to fucking do this.
Oh,
man.
wow.
I hate this.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with damp socks.
Wow.
God, I hate it.
Yes.
Socks.
Yeah. Wow. We have won over the wet socks, and the choice is sharding. Wow. So in future episodes, I've got like a paragraph to read each time we get to choice number 3, but maybe we can simplify it as we move on. But wow, damp socks.
Well, it depends how bad the choices get. I might choose that one of these days.
That might be. But here's the thing. I've been holding on to this the entire time. If you go back and listen, every time I talked about the big shit, since this one became the big shit, your socks are always damp when you put them on. There's nothing that says you can't sit under like a hair dryer, or maybe you get like a leaf blower.
You son of a
bitch. So I wasn't going to tell you that until you chose it, but you chose well. You chose well.
Now I can just dry them off when I put them on.
Thank
God.
To put them on. It sucks to put them on.
But then we just dry them off.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I have chosen wisely.
You could have chosen that weeks ago.
God damn you.
Yes, I get that a lot, actually. All right, well, good luck with the sharding this week. If it was tough for you to chew with your mouth open, now you have to keep track of every word that you say, and you got to force yourself to shart, which at our age, you don't really have to work that hard at it.
It's honestly not that hard. I may do it once or twice a day anyway. So
just out of habit.
Randomly sharding. No, I haven't sharded. I haven't sharded yet today.
Oh, there it is. It just happened. All right. Well, we've talked about a lot of bad things today. Let's give one more word on what are you thinking about? So from the gray man score going up just a notch to the worry that we have with cyber attacks. What do you think?
Preparedness would be the word I stick you guys with as a common theme with the gray man. Just because it's not hitting you at your dinner table today doesn't mean that it will not hit you at your dinner table. So prepare yourselves financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Because if, God forbid, this ever does happen, a cyber attack that just shuts us down, that big domino is going to have, it's like throwing not a pebble, but a rock into a pond. The ripples are going to be massive when they hit the shore. So just be prepared.
Yeah.
Start now. Start right now if you haven't before. Start making plans. Yep.
Yes, sir. All right. Gray Man fans, be good to each other. Get some rest, and we'll see you next time around. Cheers. Find us on Facebook, YouTube, and your podcast app at The Gray Man Podcast. All rights reserved 2020. Skunk and Gator Creations.